Hey friends, you are crafting with Kim Byers at the Celebration Shop, and today we are making some really inexpensive and beautiful wedding crafts. So we are going to make chair backers for the reception, and we are going to do Mr. and Mrs., but you could personalize these with like Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith or whatever the case may be, or bride and groom, whatever you wanted to do. But I'm going to teach you how to use stencil vinyl, and we're going to be cutting with our Cricut Joy today, but you could use your Explorer or you could use your Maker. So let's hop over into Cricut Design Space and I'll show you what we're doing, and then we'll jump over to the craft table and we'll put it all together. And by the way, I wrote a book, a DIY wedding book, a couple of years ago, and it was in Joanne and Michael's, and it is also on Amazon. So I'm going to put a link to the Amazon down below in case you want to give it a whirl. But this project was one of the crafts that I did in the book. So it's super simple. So let's hop over and get started. We are in Cricut Design Space, and so this project is really simple but with a big impact. So what I did is I went into images and I just chose something that I thought would work well. I just need a Mr. and a Mrs. And so I just searched these two things, and so it brings up all kinds of different fonts and cuts that you can use. You can obviously go into text and do your own whatever font you want it to be, but I thought I would just hop in and grab one that was already in there. This one looks like a great one. I chose to go a little bit deeper and get a different one, but you see there's all different kinds to pick from. And so I'm just going to cancel out of this because I already have mine. So what I chose was this one. It says days until we are Mr. and Mrs. Well, obviously I want Mr. and I want Mrs. and I want them separate and I want them large. So what I did is you take that design and you duplicate it. Okay, so this is what I started with, and this is where I ended up. So you take that and you duplicate it, and so one of these is going to turn into Mr. and the other will turn into Mrs. And what we want to do is we want to go down and hit our contour tool. So with the contour tool, what I suggest is just hit hide all contour. Now it's always going to leave one thing open. So what you want to do is you want to click on your Mr. Make sure you click on all of the interior pieces because you want to make sure that cut happens. And then you can go up and click on the one that was left. Okay, and when you click off of that, see now you just have Mr. And then you'll do the same with the second one and just clicking on only Mrs. Okay, so what we want to do now, once you have that Mr. and your Mrs., I'm going to delete that, then you want to size them for your particular sign. So the sign that I bought was roughly 9.5 inches across and 6.5 inches tall. So I want, one thing is, it's really important, guys, I wanted Mr. and Mrs. to be the same, like they're two separate pieces now, but I want to make sure that when I size them, I am sizing them both larger or smaller. And so just hit your shift key and make sure you grab both of them, or you can drag over top of them. And so when you resize them, pulling at the corners, just make sure you're getting them both so they stay proportionate. So mine, I wanted this one to be roughly 4.5, just a little over 4.5 inches for my particular sign. And then this, I'm okay with Mrs. being about 6 inches long. So that's pretty much it. You just find a design you want. If it's not exactly Mr. and Mrs., or if you want to, you need to separate those two and get rid of the and, use your contour tool. So now that we're at this point, I'm going to grab the original and I'm just going to hide that. I'm going to be using my Cricut Joy today, and so I've gone up and selected my Joy, and the next thing I want to do is hit Make It. And so I'm going to be using a stencil material, and that does not come in a smart material, so I'm going to be using my matte. So we click matte and done. Okay, and so there's two sizes of matte. I actually have the larger matte. If you look over in the left hand, it gives you an opportunity to do a 4.5 by 12, and I have that matte. So I'm going to see if they both fit. Yay, and they do. So I'm going to be using this one, but you could cut them individually on the smaller mat if that's the one you have. And with the template, we don't need to mirror this, so we're not going to worry with that. And the next thing we do is we hit continue. Cricut Design Space found my Joy. Okay, and at this point we want to set our base material. I only have a couple of things saved in my favorites for my Joy, so let's browse all material and just go up in the top and type in stencil, and there it is, stencil vinyl. And so now we're ready to go over to the craft table, and I can show you how we're going to put this on the mat and cut it with the Joy. Okay, so here we are on the craft table, and these are all the things that I'm going to use today. So I have my Cricut Joy, I have my long Cricut Joy mat, so this is the 12-inch mat. I have a paper trimmer. I love using my paper trimmer to cut out all of my materials just to save as much as possible and to get a clean, straight cut. And then this is my template vinyl that we're going to be using. Okay, and so then these are the little signs that I picked up at Hobby Lobby that we're going to be using, little wooden signs for our reception chairs. And then I'm going to be using this rich black chalk paint to do a nice outline around this design, and then give me a great base to use my chalk marker. So once I put down my template, I'm then going to use this chalk marker to fill it in. It's going to look really, really good. And then I do have my palette and my paint brushes and a clear ruler. Okay, so let's move everything out of the way, and we're going to start with the painting. We're going to paint first, and we're going to let it dry. Okay, so just a couple quick things before we get started. One, if you wanted to do iron-on onto wood, you could do that. Just remember that if you did that, that would be a 3-day curing process. Today, with the template vinyl, we're just going to paint this, allow it to dry, and then we can put the template on it. And the reason is because with iron-on, you're using heat. So that's 2 ways you could do this sign. The third is that you could try vinyl. I was just worried that my vinyl would come off in the humidity. We live in the South, and I didn't want to take any chances that my vinyl would release from the wood. And so I am going with a painted version and the chalk marker. Okay, so let's go ahead, and basically I'm going to freehand this, but if you are uncomfortable with this way, you could take a Sharpie and outline this shape before you get started. I'm going to just go ahead and freehand. I did take off my strings just because I didn't want to get anything on the white ribbon. Okay, so now all I need to do is to just set this aside and let it dry, and we'll go ahead and cut out our stencil. Okay, so for our template, what we want to do is we want to put our stencil on here, and I want 4.5 inches. So let's move our Joy out of the way for 1 second. We just want 4.5 inches and 12 inches long. And this is one of the reasons I love my paper trimmer, because I can always get it exactly perfect. Okay, set this out of the way. Now sometimes when you have things like this on a roll, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of got this bubble right here. You can take your scraping tool and work that bubble out before you put it on your mat. So let's just do that real quick. Okay, then we just want to take our mat. Want to apply our stencil. We could use that scraping tool again. Okay, and then all we have to do is go to our phone or to our computer and select to go once we've fed it in. Okay, so now it has stopped cutting, so we can close it up. Just gently move it out of the way. And so with stencil or any other type of material that you're taking off of the mat, you just want to bend the mat and not the material, okay? The mat can take it. So we'll just get that off the mat. Okay, and so once we have that, what we want to do is we want to find our center point. And we want to go ahead and make sure that you don't miss, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but the dot on misses, we don't want to accidentally cut that off. Okay, And so now what we want to do with stencil, it's a little bit different than it is with vinyl and other things. We want to leave the background, right? So we want the background and we don't want the interior, because that's what we're going to fill in with our pen. So what we're going to do is we're going to weed out the interior. Now be careful that you leave the interior pieces of any lettering, okay? So we're going to take that. It's kind of a reverse weed. Okay. So then we have a little dot. Okay, and so then we'll go ahead and do the misses. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to transfer this template onto our painted surface. And so I have my clear ruler so that I can make sure and get everything centered. One thing, a critical piece that I forgot to share with you guys when I was pointing out all the things that we're going to be using today was transfer tape. So what we want to do is we want to take this transfer tape and we just peel it at the edge. Okay, so what we want to do is just leaving the backer on. We're going to overlay it onto our stencil. And you can use your scraping tool if you want to. Now that we have our transfer tape on our design, what we want to do is we want to just turn it over and take our stencil off. Okay, and so now what we can do is, using our ruler, we can make sure that we get our stencil in the center of our design. So it is roughly, let's just look really quick, it is roughly 6 inches and 3.5. Okay, so we're going to want to place the R somewhat in the center. A little bit more center. Then we'll take our hands, and you can use your scraping tool. We can move our ruler now and place down our stencil. Okay, once you have that good and scraped into place, then we will peel away at an angle, leaving our stencil on our wood surface. And if it pulls away for any reason, you can use the scraping tool to put it back down. Okay, so now all we want to do is we want to take our Bistro chalk marker and you shake it up, and you want to just shake it up a lot and make sure that you get the chalk all the way down to the pen. And then all we do is we take that off and we color it in. Stencils are great when you're not confident in your own handwriting and you want to have a beautiful script or block letters or whatever the case may be. Stencils are the best. We'll let that dry for a couple of minutes and then we will remove the stencil. Okay, so let's take off the template. So we're just going to pull at one corner. Once you're done with that, you can put your ribbons back in and you can embellish these with flowers, and it's just a beautiful, simple craft for your reception. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that craft. Super simple, save yourself a ton of money, personalize it as much as you want to. It could be Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith, or Mr. and Mrs. or bride and groom, whatever you want it to say. And I hope that that would save you a little bit of money and plus be fun along the way. So if you have any questions, please leave them down below. And if you would like to see more wedding crafts here on my channel, I would love to know that as well down in the comments. Okay guys, you have a wonderful day. See you next time.